Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is The Lollipop and today we're back with another video on the Trek Marlin bikes. I'm super excited to announce that we have 4 updated bikes for 2026. So in this video we're going to compare the 2025 Trek Marlins with the new 2026 bikes, going over every single change and little detail so you can decide which bike to buy. As always, at the end of this video, I'll be completing these tables that show you all of those changes in one place, and that's also when I'll give my personal thoughts on the new bikes and let you know which one is the best deal. So thank you for being here and for watching my videos. If you do enjoy, I'd greatly appreciate you liking, subscribing, and leaving a fun comment or any questions down below, and I'll try to answer them all. Okay, starting off with a quick background. The Trek Marlins are designed as beginner mountain bikes, with more affordable models like the Marlin 4 and 5, and more expensive, higher-end models like the Marlin 6 and 7. They can be used as a do-it-all bike for both trail riding and commuting, and are meant to rival the Specialized Rockhopper and the Giant Talon bikes. For this comparison video, I'm only going to talk about the parts on these bikes that have been changed for 2026, so if I don't discuss a specific component like the suspension fork or the wheels, for example, it means that that part is the exact same one found on the 2025 version of the bike. Okay, let's kick off this comparison with the least expensive Trek Marlin, which is the Marlin 4. This bike has the most changes for 2026 because it finally gets the brand new updated Gen 3 version of the Marlin aluminum bike frame, which means all Trek Marlins in 2026 now have the newer Gen 3 frame, and that's awesome to see. Now, if you haven't seen my video on the 2023 Trek Marlin 6, definitely check that out as well. I'll link it in the description below, because in that video I explain all the differences between the Gen 2 and Gen 3 versions of the Trek Marlin frame. To make this video shorter, I won't cover all of those details again, but just know that the Gen 3 frame has more mountain biking focused features that make it a more capable bike on rougher trails, while the Gen 2 bike is more focused on lighter trails in comparison. Alright, but let's get into the other updates, starting with the price. So the 2025 Marlin 4 Gen 2 currently retails for $600 US. And surprisingly, in the US, the new bike is not changing at all in price, so it will still be $600, but it does increase a bit in the UK. But let's move on to some fun stuff, starting with the colors. The 2025 bike comes in the colors Living Coral, Matte Hex Blue, Crimson, and Neaster Black, so lots of options there. But they have all been replaced with 3 new colors, including Matte Dark Web with these green accents, Blue Sage, which is a color we originally saw on the 2023 Marlin 6 Gen 3, but the Marlin 6 also had these blue accents on the suspension fork, while this new bike does not, and the Purple Flip to Black Fade, which was originally a 2024 Marlin 5 Gen 3 color, so now you can get these colors even cheaper, which is awesome. Okay, for the parts, first let's talk wheels. So the rear hub actually got updated from a freewheel hub to a free hub, so that's some foreshadowing that this bike no longer uses a cheaper freewheel in the drivetrain, but will now have a proper cassette for the gears. For tires, the old bike had Bontrager XR2 comp tires that pretty much all Gen 2 Marlins came with, and these were fine for the style of bike, but they've been replaced with the new Bontrager Montrose comp tires, which are 0.2 inches wider for added stability over rough terrain. The Montrose tires also have a more aggressive tread pattern to provide some more grip on the trail while still retaining some speed and durability, so overall a nice upgrade for riding harder trails. Next up, we're going to go over some smaller components. So starting with the seat post, we have the same Bontrager alloy post, but they changed some of the lengths depending on the bike size, which makes sense since there's a new frame now. But seat posts can be cut to size anyways, so not a big change here. And similar story for the handlebar, same type but just wider bars for the smaller sizes only, which helps for some added control while turning. And similarly for the stem, same model but different lengths depending on the frame size, which once again makes perfect sense because the overall frame of the bike has changed, so the positioning of these components must be updated as well. The grips on all these bikes have also been updated from Bontrager branded grips to Trek grips. So in this case, we went from the Endurance Comp to the Trek Line Comp, which definitely look a lot better, more oriented for mountain biking, and still comfortable. Okay, moving on, we have the brakes. This is a bigger change since the Marlin 4 has always come with these lower end mechanical disc brakes, but we're finally moving on to the hydraulic disc brakes on this bike, which are the same brakes that were found on the Marlin 5 and 6 for a long time as well. Also got an upgrade to the brake rotors with a wider 180mm front rotor for larger frame sizes to give you that added stopping power. And the final part change we have is the drivetrain, which is another massive change. I'm going to throw up all of the drivetrain differences on the screen now, but basically the 2025 Marlin 4 had a 2x8 drivetrain, which means it had 2 gears in the front and 8 gears in the back for a total of 2x8 or 16 speeds. The new bike goes to a 1x8 drivetrain, so 1 gear in the front for a total of 8 speeds. The old bike had a pretty cheap set of shifters that were integrated with the brake levers, and they did not work super well. They were bulky and not as smooth. The new bike has the Shimano Altus shifter, which is definitely a more compact package that is more reliable and smooth. The old bike had 2 gears in the front crankset, which meant it needed a front derailleur as well to switch between those 2 gears, and that was a Shimano Altus branded derailleur that worked fine enough, but the new bike removes that part entirely since it only has that one front gear, so less moving parts that need to be serviced. And similarly, the front crankset now only has a single gear instead of 2 gears. Then the rear derailleur was a Shimano Tourney, which is the cheapest Shimano derailleur you can find, and on the new bike it's a brand new Shimano ESSA U2000 derailleur, which is essentially a new line of Shimano parts intended to replace the Tourney, Altus, and Acera level components. I don't know too much about this one personally, but it does seem to be better than the Tourney at least, perhaps on par with the Altus level components, but shouldn't be a downgrade either way. And finally, for the rear gears, we had a 14 to 34 tooth freewheel on the 2025 bike, which has been swapped for an 11 to 45 tooth cassette on the new bike, which has a wider gear range that's necessary since there's only 1 gear in the front now. Cassettes are overall better than freewheels since they are lighter in weight, more durable, more efficient, and have more upgradability options in the future, so this is a great change overall. And finally, all of these changes of course impact the overall bike weight. So in a size medium, the old Marlin weighed 32.19 pounds on average, while the new bike goes up by only a half a pound, which is really not a lot considering the Gen 3 Marlin frame itself weighs about 1 to 2 pounds more than the Gen 2 frame. Okay, next up we got the Marlin 5. So this bike in 2025 retailed for $800 US. I don't have the official US price of the new bike, but I'm betting it'll stay pretty close to $800 since the Marlin 4 didn't change at all in price. But I'll add a pinned comment down below as soon as I get those details on the official prices. For the colors, we had 4 in 2025, including that purple flip to Trek Black fade I talked about already, Alpine Blue to a deep dark blue fade, Matte Neaster Black, and Power Surge, which is the color that my bike is actually in. In 2026, we have 3 new colors, including Mulsanne Blue, with this nice gold accent on there, and it really reminds me of my college colors since I went to UC Davis. And then we also have Fury Red, and a Miami Green to Dark Aquatic Fade, which is the same color we originally saw on the 2024 Trek Marlin 6 Gen 3, so now you get that color at a cheaper price. For the parts, we have a quick update to the suspension. Same fork, just a slightly different offset that brings the front wheel a tad closer to the rider. And I actually thought that was a weird change, so I think it might be a mistake on Trek's website since none of the other Marlins have this update. And I don't know why they would only do it for this bike specifically, unless maybe there's an issue with the suspension fork supplier. Nonetheless, not a big change, but noting it down here in case. Next up, we have a tire update going from the Bontrager XT3 Comp to the Bontrager Montrose Comp. And as you can see, the blue version of this bike does come with the tan wall tires. The tires actually seem to have an identical tread pattern, so I don't really know what the difference is. And if there is a difference, it's definitely a minimal change since all of the other specs are the same. But for what it's worth, I do like the look of the Montrose better. And we have the same change to the grips as the Marlin 4, so in this case the trail comps are being replaced with the Trek line comp grips. Got a nice brake update as well, finally moving away from the Tektro hydraulic disc brakes on the Marlin 5 to the Shimano MT200s, which in all honesty, it's kind of personal preference which one you like more. I've had good experience with both of them, but Shimano is more of the name brand and the quality does feel a little bit better, but they're both entry-level hydraulic brakes that don't cost much. And last update is to the drivetrain, which is pretty much exactly the same, but we're replacing the Pro Wheel branded crankset and the associated bottom bracket with Shimano branded parts. And I do like this change. The Shimano Q's crankset definitely feels like a higher quality crankset, but overall not too big of a change. And lastly, for the weight, not too many parts have been updated on this bike, so Trek didn't even bother updating the weight at all, so it is staying exactly the same. Alright, time for the Marlin 6 Gen 3. The 2025 bike was priced at $1,000 US, and once again, no US price yet, but the UK price has not changed much, which is a good sign. For the colors, we had a Miami green to dark aquatic fade, rage red to deep dark blue fade, galactic gray to lithium gray fade, and lava, and those super long color names have been replaced with a gloss lavender haze, and this color actually has some black lines in the paint that give it a marble effect. The color lava again actually, but this time it is red and lighter red instead of red and black. And a matte lichen to Keswick green fade, which we originally saw on the 2025 Trek Pro Caliber 9.6, so that's pretty cool to see here. For the parts, starting with the wheels, we have a small update to the rims, which are the exact same model, but Trek updated their website to state that this bike could come with 28 or 32 hole rims. Not a big change, but the 32 hole rims would be a bit more durable due to the 4 added spokes, which will provide some more strength. For the tires, this update is all over the place, but the 2025 bike came with a variety of different tires. It could have had the Maxxis Ardent Race, or Maxxis Icon, or even the Bontrager XT3 Elite tires, all of which are fairly similar. And the new bike doesn't really make things any simpler because per the Trek website, we now have either the Maxxis Recon Race or Maxxis Icon tires. However, Trek in their pictures also shows the bike with the Bontrager Montrose Comp tires, so that's also an option. Not sure why there are so many different tires for this bike specifically, but overall all of these are similar. The Icon tires are more cross-country and light trail focused, while the Recon and Montrose tires are more trail oriented. Next up, we have a nice update to the seat post, which was a fixed alloy seat post in 2025 and is now finally a dropper post with internal routing. Now, for those of you that don't know, a dropper post is a great upgrade for mountain biking because it allows you to push a lever on the handlebar to drop the seat down so you can get better balance on your bike while riding on tricky terrain. You can see the different travel amounts based on the frame size, and that's great to see as well, so the dropper will work for you regardless of your height. One small thing to note here is that Trek states this bike comes with a 34.9mm diameter dropper, but that's not possible since the Marlin frame only accepts a smaller 31.6mm post, so that's most likely a mistake as well, but I'll add an update comment below if I'm wrong about that and it actually is 34.9. And of course we have the same update to the grips as on the Marlin 5 and Marlin 4. And also similar to the Marlin 5, the brakes have been swapped from the Tektro hydraulic disc brakes to the new Shimano MT200 brakes. And last difference is in the drivetrain. Small update here to the crankset and associated bottom bracket, but the crank has just been swapped from the FSA branded crankset to the official Shimano Q's branded crankset, which is pretty similar, but nice to see the entire drivetrain is now Shimano branded. Finally, for the bike weight, the 2025 bike weighed in at about 32 pounds, while the new bike increases a pound more to 33 pounds, mainly due to the dropper post. And last bike we'll talk about today is the Trek Marlin 7 Gen 3. The 2025 bike retails for $1,400 while the new bike actually decreased in price in the UK, so I'm hoping we'll see a similar decrease in the US as well. For the colors, the 2025 bike came in Keswick, Pennyflake, and Crystal White, while the 2026 bike comes in a Fury Red to Lithium Gray Fade, Magic Mint, and a matte dark web with clear gloss splatter. And this color has pink accents, and the frame itself does have that clear splatter on it. Actually, the first time I saw it, I thought someone had just washed the bike and forgotten to dry it before taking the pictures, but that's actually the design, which is interesting. Parts-wise, we have the same update to the rims as on the Marlin 6, so same rims but potentially a 32-hole rim for added strength. Luckily, the tires have a less confusing update on this bike, going from the Maxxis Ardent tires to the Maxxis Recon tires, and these are pretty similar overall. The old Ardent tires are a bit faster, but the new Recon tires have slightly better control and traction, so it's a trade-off but shouldn't be a huge difference. And this bike already came with a dropper post in 2025, but we have an updated model and updates to the travel amounts based on the frame sizes, so just tweaking that a bit to give riders the best dropper travel based on their height. And same as the other bikes, we do have the grip update to the Trek branded grips, and then a super quick drivetrain update only to the rear derailleur, which is actually an amazing update since we're going away from that cheap SRAM SX Eagle derailleur, which tends to have more problems and break more easily, and we're going to the NX Eagle, which is definitely more durable and more reliable. And lastly, for the weights, what's weird here is that Trek states the bikes are weighed with tubeless sealant installed, even though the bikes, as far as I can tell, do not actually come with tubeless sealant installed, so it seems like they're kind of just trying to make their bikes seem lighter in weight when compared to the other Marlins because sealant is lighter than inner tubes. But yeah, just mentioning that here so you know that this weight is not representative of the way the bike will actually come from factory since it should have tubes. Regardless, in this case, the new bike is actually a full 2 pounds lighter, which I also don't really understand why based on the minimal part updates, but yeah, that's what Trek says. Okay, but those are officially all of the updates and changes to the Trek Marlin lineup from 2025 to 2026. I'll slowly put up all the completed tables now, one at a time, while I talk about my personal thoughts on the new bikes and which bike is my favorite, and which one is the best deal. Okay, we gotta talk about this Marlin 4. I never thought I'd see a Marlin 4 that's worth buying in all honesty, but this one just blows me away with the amazing updates, and it's staying at the exact same price point. We have the new Gen 3 frame on this bike in some awesome colors. We finally have the hydraulic disc brakes. It's got a 1x drivetrain. Like, these are killer upgrades for the cheapest model. The first Trek bike I ever bought was my 2020 Marlin 5, and that bike cost me $600 after tax. And this Marlin 4 blows that bike away in terms of components and features and capability. This is an awesome change, and I love it. Next up for Marlin 5, not really any changes worth talking about, mainly just small updates to parts that make the bike that much better. It's nice to see the Shimano brakes on there now, but overall this bike is still a solid contender for a relatively good value, considering that it's still coming from a big bike shop brand. Marlin 6 had a lot of updates as well. Getting the dropper post is awesome, but besides that we just have smaller updates like on the Marlin 5, and that's fine too. I don't really think we need to see anything crazy here. It still has a RockShox suspension fork and is a great beginner mountain bike that will last. And finally, Marlin 7. This one got the least updates, it seems, but getting that SRAM NX derailleur is a pretty good change, and I'm super happy about that one. As long as these bikes don't change too much in price, I think all of these updates are fine, but I think you can tell that in my opinion, the Marlin 4 is the absolute best deal right now. Getting a Gen 3 frame, hydraulic brakes, 1x drivetrain for $600 is so cool. I'm pretty excited about that, and it'll be a great bike for anybody who wants to start mountain biking or even just start commuting around town and see where it takes them. I think my personal favorite bike right now is the Marlin 6 Gen 3, since they added that dropper post on there now, and I feel like it really doesn't need anything else at all. With the new brakes and other slight updates, I really don't think a Trek Marlin bike needs to be upgraded any more than this. Well, except for maybe adding an air suspension fork like on the Marlin 7, but besides that, it's a pretty solid bike. But wow, that is finally it for this video, everyone. Thank you for making it to the end if you watched this far. I appreciate all of you. I'm super excited to read all the comments and which bike is your favorite. Besides that, I hope all of you have an awesome day today, and remember to keep biking out there.